Welcome, everyone, to the 279th weekly MLP Drawing School live critique stream. It's
Many.
already July the 6th. Yeah, I'm ready to
What?
curl back up in bed. Wait another 6 months. How about you?
Yeah. Well, okay,
Yeah.
August starts to get better.
Fair. Yeah. Well, as you can hear, we have a small horde of people with us today. We
Or
got
a herd.
a herd. Oh, well, dang it. Yeah, it's a herd.
I'm Welsh.
I guess you're right. Well, we got Fluffy Alley Picks.
Zom.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
banned.
We speed ran it.
Yep.
No, any percentage speed run name announcement. Go.
That's everyone's name in one go.
Yep.
Is that our ship name?
Yeah.
We're the new hit polycule.
Alright, so
Sounds like a Pokemon.
I've
Alright, well,
already got one group of friends.
as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have any art you'd like to throw at our faces for critique, feel free to critique. And please remember, critique your fellow artists. It's a great thing. Only if they ask for it. Only if they ask.
Yeah.
Consent is important.
Yes, it is. Basically, if it's posted on the subreddit or here in the critique channel on our Discord, then it's basically up for critique. In the art channel or general channels or anything like that, then don't critique unless it's asked for. They might not want it.
Yeah.
But it's very helpful to do so. Helps you, helps them, helps the world. Doing it.
Is the way we move forward here and don't end up spending hours doing this. I think this.
Yeah.
All right. So, seeing as no one has pinged a piece of art off my forehead and embedded it somewhere there, let's start off with the first one posted on the subreddit. We got one
more
by
violent every time.
Listen, eventually it's gonna pierce right through and drill the heavens. It'll be fine.
No.
First picture is by Flame the Kitsune, and it is Princess Flurry Heart.
Cute.
It is cute. Very cute.
Brilliant. Did they ask any particular questions or have any comments on this?
I'm looking through their posts, and I don't see any questions in particular.
I say I love the fact that the background is like a kind of like airbrush texture, because like it really works for like the sort of like diffused sunset appearance. Like it's the background, it's not meant to be in detail. It's not like it doesn't need to be like super detailed. The focus on Flurry, and that is the first thing you look at because she's in the highest detail, but she doesn't look super out of place. It just looks like the background sort of had this like almost painterly, like like traditional paint, like just sort of like splotched into the background kind of look. And I love that it's got like shape and landscape to it, but in a very like low bit rate sort of way where everything's kind of squashed into a single set of tones, and I think it works. It's very interesting.
So I would say that you can probably not overlap this back wing quite as much and just like show just a little bit more of the bare back there just because of where that's all sitting. It's probably gonna feel alright doing that. Right here is kind of a strange sort of part. So I think what I'm seeing is this shoulder here, and then this is like a bit of like neck fluffy kind of like stuff like that. If that's the case, what I would do is, let me just erase my lines here. What I would do is probably add a little bit more shading there to sort of separate the leg, sorry, the shoulder and stuff from this back area. So let me just take this a little bit darker and do that sort of stuff there. yeah, I'd probably end up doing something along this line just to sort of show off that there is sort of a separation there, and to sort of like show off that
Mhm.
the arm is there. Keep an eye on the face shape. If you're going for or if you do this kind of like shape, it kind of like says old pony a little bit, kind of thing. So you can do something like this, boom, and then have that be like a little bit more, or a little bit less curves and all that sort of thing. That might help a little bit convey the sort of thing you're going for. It's a cool picture. I like it.
Who was working on the mane up there?
I just did a quick little itty bitty thing. The one thing I noticed with the head is that you do have a side profile for the head here, but the ears almost feel like they want to be 3/4 because this front ear here, to me, read as if it was turned towards the head, which horse ears can do that, but for such a content pose that she has going on here, I don't think the ear would quite be bending inward to the head at such a degree. So all I did was just I loosened it up and brought the outside of the ear to face the viewer. And what I did with the hair was instead of just having the ear randomly come out, I designed the hair to go around the ear. So, underneath this big old fluffy bushel she has on the top of her head, you can have the hair start to curl around the ear. And then the same with behind it, it can curl to the frontwards to connect, to the hair itself. So you can still have like the idea that the ear is poking out through the through the hair, rather than the hair just disappearing where the ear is. It just kind of feels a little more 3D. It's a little more cohesive, and makes the hair that much more realistic.
Something I would kind of take a look at maybe is let me trace this along. So starting off down here, I go boom, boom, something like that. Kind of like flows. You see this sort of top of the thing, it like flows down into this sort of a shape. This is pretty far out from here. And I think it's not a problem to have like, a little bit of like a something going like that. But if there is like something like that, you should probably try to like show it in a place that isn't covered up by the ears, just so that just so our eyes can sort of connect that these are all the same thing, part of the sort of same hair shape and all that kind of stuff. And I'd probably honestly, a lot of this, like this part here, I'd probably like cut back just because I don't think it's really quite that necessary for the sort of hairstyle she's got going on. So probably, you can probably pull it back to sort of something like that ish, kind of something. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that adds to what I was saying earlier, how it feels like between the hair back here and the way the ears were originally facing, this half almost feels like it wants to be fourths facing away, but then you suddenly get the side view towards the front of the face. So it's just keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. Let's roll on to our next cutie patootie horsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good horse. Good
Yeah,
drawing.
can't wait to see more.
Heck yeah.
This one is by Rukia Reddits. Discuss my first post here, fan art of Noni. I did some fan art earlier this year of an artist that I really enjoy the server and works of. They're a really cool artist, and this was a great opportunity to sketch my pony art, or stretch my pony art muscles. Critiques are more than welcome. I'm always looking for ways to improve. That's a great way to view this. Yeah, good
That's a nice
attitude.
attitude.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Your horse is a cutie patootie. Just want to point that out. And you're like, if this is you just stretching your horse legs, damn,
Hmm.
I want to see what other art you actually make, because it seems you have quite a background in art if this is like your first few horses.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoy the line work. Like just the little like this little divot. Ah, come on. There we go. This little divot inwards, like how you have connections and folds. I really enjoy that. It's a nice little facet to the style.
Hmm. Mm. Okay.
The hips, I do like when people do the hips in this way. Might have been a bit of an overshoot on this one, just based on how the body's turned, because it doesn't really give a reason for the middle or the front of the body to be like, there's my pen. Doesn't give a reason for the body to be facing, like that, but then the spine curled to make the hip stick forward. But give or take, it's very easy, or it's very easy to pass off as just normal.
Hmm. If you're sort of having the hips kind of like turned towards us in this kind of a way, normally what I'd expect to see is something like boom, and then also something like boom. It doesn't need to be much. It can probably just be like, tiny little snippet of a line up there, and that would probably be enough to sell it. But just something to sort of like show off that, here is how the hips are turning would probably be useful in this kind of a case. Just because when I first looked at it, I was like, okay, that's a cool idea, but I don't know where the hips are turning. You can probably also reinforce it by like this cutie mark, just
Yeah.
stretching it, putting it like there. Based on everything I'm seeing, that's probably where it should be, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like intended to be shown off explicitly, that's fine. But chucking it over there would probably make more sense in terms of the specific pose you're going for at the moment. So you could also maybe up here. You've done it like down here, all good. But you might be able to. Oh, I am reloading Aggie because I pressed the wrong button. Thank you, Aggie. There we go. You might be able to get away with also creating a bit of like pass through right there. That might help. Sort of sell that everything is sort of the same. Smooth and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I think
I
it's
love the
super.
ears. The ears are super good.
Ears are super good.
Yeah.
Just a super nitpicky thing. I would maybe lighten the curve. Let me grab a different color. Lighten the curve for this wing here. While the bones themselves may have the harsh jiggy jags, if you actually look at a bird's wing, there's like a flap of skin that kind of stretches on that corner. It doesn't need to be like a huge, thing. Just a little something, a nicer curve instead of just the divot to really help that wing. A little
Mm.
more flow. It's just
Yeah.
comparing it to IRL birds, but just it's super nitpick, like super nitpick.
I think if it's like compared to like normal birds and all that sort of stuff, you mostly want to stick with this sort of direction for like these little bits. So boom, boom, that sort of stuff. And because we're looking at the underside, you have this like separate little thing here in kind of this corner where like the wing actually like connects into the body and all that sort of stuff. You have this, and then you have these big, kind of whatevers, and then you have big long ones. Kind of. I don't know. Keep this in mind. It might be good to sort of separate that off.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think something else that's kind of throwing me off a little bit, just a little bit. So you look at these shoulders. This shoulder is raised up a bit, and this shoulder is a little bit lower down. That you probably could also represent that a little bit in these wings a bit. So this wing, comes up. You could start it up a little bit higher, have it, do whatever it's all the kind of stuff it's doing here. I'm bad at wings, so ignore my wings, please. This one, you could probably have it come up a little bit less high than this other wing. You could probably make it come out a little bit more if you wanted to, but no stress either way on that. But just to sort of reinforce the sort of shoulder sort of thing with
I
this
think
neck.
something that can doubly help with that is if you're gonna push for that off-kiltered shoulder, make the arms work for you. Because as of right now, both these arms are kind of like in the same generic like out front position. You could have like maybe one much more curled up, yeah, exactly as Pixie's doing, and then one more stretched out. Just anything to kind of help that off-kilter look. Unless if you want square shoulders, then you just got to be careful because both your elbows are lined up perfectly, but your shoulders are way off. So just kind of keep those proportions in mind in the future.
So like all this is like really nitpicky, weird things
Super
about
nitpicky.
aligning things and about reinforcing the alignment and all that sort of stuff. That's because
It's so good.
you're good. You're good at drawing. All this is really well worked
Mhm.
out. All this is really well worked out. Like it's just
I really
oh
love the eyes. The eyes are like
yeah,
so subtle and expressive, but also like the inside and how they're colored. I really enjoy
mm,
that.
it's interesting. Very interesting. You could
Yeah.
maybe chuck some like highlighty stuff around the muzzle-ish sort of like area. I feel like just some like something subtle, but just some like something because it's kind of a big contrast looking between here, the sort of shaded area on the neck, and here. It's kind of a big contrast sort of jump, and it might be helped by just like having some additional sorts of like little subtle bits of like light and stuff up here, just to kind of like spread that contrasty sort of feeling out across the whole thing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just chucking words in.
I think you
But
could
yeah.
even get like some small shadows like under the muzzle, like where the mouth separates a little bit. Maybe you could get like
Oh, I see.
in the eyelid a bit. Just small stuff. Because I
Hmm.
think that ties it in nice with the neck as well. 'Cause right
Yeah.
now the face is pretty bare, even though there's a lot of bumps on that face in a good way, like the muzzle and the ridges of the nose and all that.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But yeah,
But
it's good stuff.
really, really good. Lots of
Really good.
nitpicky stuff, but like in general, really good horse. Good job. I love it. I want to see more horses and more other things that you've drawn in the past. I think we're mostly good to move on now.
Alright. Oh, hey,
Oh, oh, oh,
there we
oh.
go. Just one moment. Let me see if this one got critiqued. Soldier Point, did you critique this one?
And I think they did the piece of paper, the one on the piece of paper.
Okay.
What?
You were doing a bat horse.
Yeah, I
You
was
ended
not
up doing
doing
the
that
piece.
one.
Okay, cool. Just double checking. All right. This is by Sunna Dao Fangirl. Sunna Dao. Yeah. Tried to draw my OC via digital art rather than traditional. The wing is kind of wonky though.
That's fine. Everyone has wonky wings.
Mm-hmm.
Cool drawing.
Yeah.
I like the colors. The colors is like whoosh. That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. The
Vibrant.
pose is really
That's
interesting too.
mm,
I always love to see when people push for a little more than just standing. It's
yeah,
good exercise to get those limbs moving.
Yeah, it
absolutely.
stops atrophy.
Something on the pose, something that can be interesting to look at is sort of diagonals. Like because horses like have 4 legs. Normally, if you're doing something strange and interesting and fun with like one leg, you want to look at the opposite leg. So what you could do is you could have this this front hoof sort of down on the ground, and then this back hoof like have that be like sort of out in the way that is, or that sort of stuff. Because then you've got these 2 hooves sort of flat on the floor, being stable, and then these two hooves are sort of free to be up in the air or do whatever, all that sort of stuff. Just a very very small thing, but it can make for some more balanced looking poses and that stuff. You got someone doing the wing,
Yeah.
which I appreciate.
Your wing design's okay. You've really accented the thickness of those bone sections. Instead of drawing over this, my suggestion, go actually look at some bat wings. Either that other people have done for other characters or real bats, because there's a lot of those out there. Those flying rats. They'll get
Kind
you.
of everywhere.
Yeah. They are actually basically twigs with giant net or giant skin areas between them. They're very slender and thin. They don't actually build up a large area, but there's also 2 of them. And my suggestion would be when you're doing these things, do a little checklist. It works for me because boy howdy do I forget things. I have a little checklist of wings, horns, ears, eyes, schnoz, hooves.
Yeah, do you have to make a checklist of, did I forget any wings or horns? Oh, yes, I did.
All the time. All the time will I forget horns or wings.
I do. I think everyone has those moments when they forget. It's pretty easy to do.
It is why I have earth horses as my favorite, because it's hard to forget them. They ain't got them.
I don't know why I made mine.
You mean Alicorn? We're doomed. Yeah, so don't forget that second wing. And with the leg, I've just added just the next joint to it. So really, this... here, let me do it up in blue just to highlight it. Just these 2 areas here. And that'll give you the sort of shoulder joint that exists there. Because they have a short little bone to long, or medium bone to short bone for the buildup of that arm. And it makes it look a little more pleasing.
I'll just watch the placement of the ears, because you've got them kind of right on the temple, on the other side of the head, whereas there's this whole side of the skull thing going on, and you don't want the ear to cross over where the eye is. So just I'd also move the lines on the inside of the ear, so instead of having them look like I can see the curve right now, but it's very subtle, so it almost makes it look like it's kind of like a flat object with just like plates going across it, as opposed to being like a hollow thing. So you can keep doing this if you want, and just curve the inside of the ears a little bit more. But I'd recommend doing them in this little sort of circle shape to show that it's sort of like a tunnel to an ear canal. I also just sort of increase like the flatness of the hooves a little bit, so they're not a bit too round.
Good job on the these like fluff things on the hooves. They look good.
Yeah.
Also,
I do like
it.
this sort of...
It might look like we're chucking a lot of different things at you and all that sort of stuff, but just feel free to like watch the video.
At a time.
Yeah, and just pick one thing to focus on. It's all good. I get overwhelmed.
I see. I always find when it comes to feathering on hooves, like having exposed hooves, it works a lot better if you have it sort of tucked down at the back and exposed at the front, as opposed to having the whole exposed. But it's up to you if you don't want to do that. It's absolutely fine.
I tend to keep it really simple, and just like on this hoof as an example, I tend to just like go, boom, 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 and then I just do a line, and then that's mostly it. I'll try a little couple of bumps, but I won't go.
Oh,
in
Oh.
depth with it. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Fluffy's
There's
eye?
just an example of the who says
Okay.
Mm.
there we go.
Oh, and Vex in the chat gave a really good idea. Also, besides bats, dragons. Dragons can be really good reference because they're also built for like
Yeah.
four-legged creatures. So you can work in the shoulder blade and how the wings connect to the body too. So good shouts. And plus, who doesn't love dragons? Dragons are just great. Who didn't have a dragon face?
Heck yeah, dragon. Let's go.
Phase. I mean, look at our friend Vex. I know Vex. Vex. I'm sure Vex likes
Jenny.
dragons. Jenny is super into dragons. Yeah.
All right, let's roll on to our next horse.
Woo!
Super good horse.
Good horse. I love the colors. So cute.
Yep.
This one is by, oh god, Hortelian or Ortella. Y'all gotta stop rolling your hands across the keyboard and making usernames. It makes it hard.
So this one's intense.
Yeah, I
Very
think
something.
Did they
Very
give any more comments or questions in their
None.
thing?
none. So this I'm gonna
None.
stick a big style tag on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Because we could say about how the wing kind of bends upside down and backwards, but that just totally fits the style here. So
It
like,
does.
I don't know what to
you
say.
can if I'm looking at like all of this stuff, I'm seeing okay, they have an idea of how to like represent form and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot that we don't have to really talk about.
So I guess the big critique here is come with questions if you want something critique, because this is beautiful, this is wonderful. I love the motion of the line, everything going on here. The style is very fun, very alive, but we don't know how to help critique you because it's so stylized. We don't know what you had struggled with or
We don't know what you have in mind.
Yeah.
What part do you think could be improved? What sort of stuff do you want to work on?
Mm-hmm.
I think it could probably benefit from a little bit of shading. Like it doesn't need to be like fully intense, figuring out the light source and the shadows and all that sort of stuff. But like at the moment, it's a little bit difficult to sort of see to sort of innately sort of understand the forms when I just first look at it. So something that someone did for one of my drawings that sort of helped out a bit was sort of just like actually let me do that low opacity stuff. Yeah, there we go. Is just for example like shading the bottom of the wings and that kind of stuff. That might be like something that'll like sort of help outline or illustrate that. Some similar sorts of things in the wings or the hair or underneath here or bloody underneath there or stuff that basically it's not a lot. It's not like crazily heaps of like worked out stuff, but it's like breaking up the different parts of the form in a way that just like makes it easier to see on first glance. So I'm just I have like a fairly dark brush and it's just low opacity, so that's I really like using sort of that kind of thing to like try to do all this sort of stuff.
In the inverse, you could also try to use rim lighting or just like the eraser to kind of have stuff pop out from each other. Because there's some areas like I get slightly confused with what's going on here. The face, someone cleaned up the face a bit. I think some areas like that rely heavily on how lines work, the face could use just a smidge more cleaning up so that all the lines don't get confused on how you interpret the expression. Like before, there's a lot more lines that kind of fuddled with maybe where the eyebrow was and how things connected. So it's and I get that this is a sketch, like or I'm not sure. This is why I wish we had questions from you. I don't want to just flat out say you have to have perfectly clean sketches because I'm absolutely against having clean sketches. You can do them. I'm just like, it's not a bad thing to have a dirty sketch. But if it's like to present something, like to clean up some of the lines, just to make the important parts cleaner and more visual.
Yeah, so I've done sort of like added the areas sort of like dark, and you can do just same thing with like a low opacity white brush or something similar. Just come over, illustrate sort of the important bits. Sort of add some more context so that your eyes can sort of understand it from the get-go.
I would also move the wings forward a bit on the back. After doing a little cleanup on the body, I'm not quite sure if I actually removed one of the wing joints, because not quite sure what was going on fully there based on a few lines that are overlapping. But I would move those wings forward a bit just so the joint's above the shoulder blade visually. Excuse you.
Bless you.
And I would make sure to also keep the second wing there. Because right now, I'm not quite sure if this is the bow tie in the head or the feather sticking out. Either way, we should have a second wing there.
So, let me sort of jump between so you can just see the sort of effect that the shading on top sort of has. Just boom, 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 boom. You've still got everything that you've got there. It's just more effectively sort of shown off in terms of the form, sort of thing. Like my brain understands how this looks in 3D space a lot better than this.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm not given much in terms of like clues as to what is above what's under what, or whatever, any of that sort of stuff.
All right, shall we move on to our next source?
Yeah. I hope to
Yeah.
see more stuff. This
But-
is like, I really love the style. Like, I really
Yeah,
do.
the style is like super interesting, especially like because you do know like about form and stuff. It's like, oh,
100%.
strange, weird,
Yeah.
interesting, cool, weird, cool. I like it.
Okay, this is by Mika Blue Mika. These are all my pony drawings drawn for Art Fight this year. I would love critique mostly on the anatomy, but anything helps. So they did have a few. Had one with all the legs, one with a bit of a shoulder, but I chose this one because I wanted to boop it the most.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Also, hell yeah, Art Fight.
Hell yeah, Art Fight. Let's go.
Yeah. I still need to do some. I'm so pressured.
I got randomly attacked by someone on Art Fight, and I was like, how did this person just like do this amazing drawing of my OC? What the hell?
Are
Right?
you all right?
Yeah, I'm
Blind
spending a
play.
few days recovering. You know,
I got attacked so hard on my OCs as attacked back to G3 styles.
brilliant. I love it.
So visually, I don't see anything wrong with your horse. Like, as far as if you were to call this your style, I'd be like, cool, yep, that's a style. If you're leaning more towards like standard show anatomy, they got smaller ears, slightly larger eyes, but only because the ears are taking up less of that space. And that's about the only differences between yours and 3.5, or like standard show style. If you go into the movie style, it changes up a bit more. They got a bit more of a cheek to them. The eyes are slightly shrunk and pulled off to the side a bit more. That's
I
about
love
the
how
only-
big the ears are. The ears are the perfect size. Make them bigger. Let's
Full
end up with
Dumbo?
like the biggest ears I've ever seen. Yeah, 100%. I tend, so when looking at it from the front, I tend to find this sort of a shape is really useful. So let me sort of draw out the rest of the ears kind of thing. This sort of a thing. And I could probably honestly... come on, pull this in a little bit, yeah. Just showing the sort of like cavity in the ear and that sort of stuff. Like if I was like doing contour lines at the inside, it'd be like, something roughly like that kind of thing. With a little bit of like extra space here. Because it like flows into the head there and all that sort of stuff. That's usually pretty useful. The muzzle is always interesting. It's always difficult. You probably don't need to curve this down and around quite as much. You can probably... Let me try. I'll just go and erase that and start from the blank place. Yeah, you can probably just do something along those lines, to be honest. Leave it a little bit less defined, and brains will just fill it out, figure out the rest for you. Probably move those to be up a little bit. Because of how wide this mouth is, the shape that I'm kind of getting from this muzzle is kind of also a bit of a wide shape as well. So what I do with these two nostrils is I probably just sort of move them out a little bit, Nothing crazy, but just to sort of match the shape the mouth is giving me a little bit more closely. And I'd probably make the neck a little bit bigger, but that's personal preference, whatever. In general, it's a cool horse. I want to see you sort of draw more horses and stuff because this looks really good.
Yeah, super cute.
Yeah, adorable horse, good horse. And draw a bunch of hearts around it. Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in or?
No.
I didn't know if I have anything else to say. Good.
It's
Yeah.
good. Did wonderful.
Good stuff. You've
Those
left
eyes-
us speechless.
Those eyes are
Yeah.
interesting. The
I
the
love
two
them.
colors where the pupil is the same as the top.
Mm.
The more I look at them, the more it looks like the ponies like doing that half-lidded look, but they aren't because their actual eyes fully open. It's a bit of a trip. I would almost do
Yeah.
a slightly darker
Sometime-
pupil.
Yeah, you could do Dakar.
I could.
Yeah, you could mess with it. But in general, like the shape is really interesting and cool. It's got that very anime inspired shape that looks really cool.
Right.
Ooh, very very easy fix, or very easy sort of like thing you can do. Oh my god, why is it showing that color? There we go. I just have some little bits of white that go through this outside line. So just couple of little spots of like highlights and that sort of stuff. That can really like help give the eyes a bit more life and energy and all that kind of stuff.
Can't forget about the cataracts. They've been staring so
Yeah.
long at the sun.
100%. They're just bouge. The eyes are basically painted on at this point for all the good they're worth with the cataracts.
All right, let's move on to our next one.
I love it. Next one. Oh,
Alrighty.
M also did post some stuff in the
Yeah,
in the
embroidered.
thing. You might be able to...
I'll throw their picture on last. They aren't joining us on the stream, so
Yep.
no use in prioritizing.
Perfect.
So this is by Seborgan. Morgoths attempted to use different shapes for main highlights, but now the mane looks oily. Also used another skull float. Do you think it
Another
looks
what?
oily because the highlights? Hmm.
I mean, I
Is this
can
a
sort of.
traditional piece or a digital one?
Traditional foreground, digital background.
Okay, I see.
Okay. I think the thing that makes me read into the oiliness is that we have no hair strand definition, and the highlights take over most of it as if it was a liquid. Liquids are hair is really reflective, but liquids are even more reflective. So it's almost like there's just kind of a highlight for every occasion where if you look at hairs, you could probably put the highlights in bunches of hair and kind of help the highlights define the hair themselves.
Mm.
And treat it with a little more structure than water.
Especially down here, it's got that really oil slicky sort of reflective property, which looks super duper cool.
Hmm.
But for hair, it might be good to chuck some hard edges and stuff in there. Whenever sort of we're talking about shading and all that sort of stuff, you've got the really soft shading and you've got really hard shading, and this is probably a case to chuck some more hard shading in or hard lighting and stuff in.
Hmm. And just even cut down on how much white there is. Like there's areas like over here where the hair bends inward, and that would be away from the light, especially if the light's coming from. Let me get a better color. Especially if the light's coming from over here, we'd maybe get these areas hit, but not this area. There'd be certain areas in which that would fall to the shadow a bit more, and that would take away some of the white highlight usage, which will cut down on the oil stickiness.
Yeah, I'm just going over it with a little low opacity dark brush. I'm just color picking stuff from like this blue area just above and all that. So yeah, something like that.
Going through their post, I know I originally said it's traditional, but it's actually digital. All digital.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool.
You know what?
Very cool digital.
I'm going to assume most of the lights backlighting, just with how these rim lights are hitting all over the character.
Mm.
So I think a lot of this could be darkened up a bit just with the light, since the light's only coming from back here. Like a lot of the front could have some more intense shadow, less of the hair. This horn, you could probably cut some of that even highlight off around where I just drew a line. Um,
I'm just coming in the sort of sides of the muzzle and all that sort of stuff, and so I'm basically just darkening all this up because if the lighting is coming sort of from the back, this kind of area probably wouldn't receive as much light, and so what you could do once you've done that is come back in and strategically add just a little bit of like stuff on the very sort of front edge where it might sort of some of the light might actually come around and hit it, sort of thing.
mhm. And you could still keep the highlights on the hair, but you could tone down the brightness of them. I'm just kind of going over it with a little airbrush. Because that way the intensity of your backlighting pops that much more, and we're not so distracted by all the shines in every direction.
Oh, there we go. So under the chin, I've just color picked from sort of up here, the blue sort of shape, low opacity, and something like that. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Fun. It's fun to mess about with lighting like this, and so in this kind of a case, what I'd probably say is good to sort of look at and good to sort of mess with and all that kind of thing is make your brush bigger. Get a large. So for this, I'd probably go, even something like this, sort of this kind of like size, or even something like this. Turn the opacity down, and then just get your sort of shadow color, and then just mess about a bit and sort of see where you get. Sort
Mm-hmm.
of zoom out so that the picture is pretty small on your canvas, and then mess about and just sort of like see what exactly sort of works for you and for the picture and all that sort of stuff. I'm just really zoomed out. I'm sort of looking around a little bit and all that sort of stuff, and trying to work out kind of like a general light and shadow sort of vibe for the whole picture. Maybe I want to pull this forward, this like little thing here. Maybe I want this to cut through a little bit more and all that sort of stuff. But make your brush bigger, and feel free to just chuck colors on top of it. You don't need to sort of your lights and your shadows. They can just start out as these like big, not very well defined blobs, and then you can make them more exact and all that sort of stuff later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like this might not be like the direction you want to go in terms of lighting, but it definitely reads more precisely. It's definitely got a lot more sort of direction in it than the original one. Let me sort of actually remove my stuff a little bit more. You can see the lighting that someone else has tracked on there as well.
I mean, the overall thing I did was just kind of take a big soft brush and go darken everything down, bring it down a hinch, just so that it has more of a contrast to the background. Because this is like, without what I did, it feels like broad daylight sunlight. But if we're doing this dark, eerie, orangey, glowy thing behind them, the fact that it's darker almost makes it pop more to me.
Mm. It's fun to like chuck light around and sort of see what happens. You can end up with stuff that works and stuff that doesn't, and you can just keep iterating on it and messing with it. So the lighting that I just chucked on top looks pretty hideous, but that's the fun bit. Is it took me like not that long because I'm using a very big brush, very low opacity. I'm just sort of jumping on top of it. So yeah.
All right, shall we roll on to our next horse?
Heck yeah. Good drawing.
Good try.
I love it. Cool.
All right, we got. Oh, this is actually our second last one.
Mm.
This one is by one of my tabs. Which tab is it?
Mess.
Hello,
Mess
Tab.
up with
Famous Wishbone 7098. My pony OC Snowlight.
Aw.
Heck yeah.
Pretty.
Pretty.
It's an awesome design. Like, I love it.
Mm.
Cutie patootie.
It's very interesting. I like it.
Good, cool, elegant siren with batwing.
Got
Mm.
a little of everything.
Yeah.
So someone else is already looking with it and already trying to mess with it. this area. It'd probably be good to sort of mess about with kind of like head shapes and sort of working out just how much of like that eraser is way too big, but just how like much of like an angle there is kind of thing there. Because what I'm tempted to do with this face is kind of move this eye a little bit over that way.
Mm-hmm.
So move it so it's maybe like that, and then just like cut that off there, and do that. Do this something like roughly kind of sort of like that.
It wasn't sure at first because I wasn't sure if just because of
Mm,
how big the head was, I wasn't sure if they were going for like a porpoise head where like it has that long muzzle, but it's still like a huge head that kind of glides into their muzzle. And if that's so, I wouldn't have the muzzle connect this far back into the head. It's definitely more of like a ramp, right? No, I
mm,
should get a picture of a dolphin or whatever, but
yep.
it more goes into the ball rather than like how a horse's goes directly into a ball. But
Yeah. It depends as well on sort of whether the eyes are sort of like very much on the side of the head or
mhm,
facing very much front on and all that sort of stuff. Something that I've found is really interesting and fun, for me at least, it's all good, is so getting up some reference pictures and doing all that sort of stuff and just like messing about with this exercise where I'll draw a head, I'll draw like a neck sort of a thing, and then I'll just try to connect them and try to like work out what kind of shape the muzzle is and how the eyes will get distorted on that sort of like a face and all that sort of stuff. And it's a very interesting kind of like a kind of an exercise to do because it forces you to like think about a lot of different like aspects of things that you probably don't often think about. But that sort of like exercise will probably help a lot when you come into like drawing something like this in terms of like
mhm,
working out exactly where all the different pieces go and how they fit together. Because it might not like look like it might not feel like this is like an advanced kind of like a face, but it is. It's like
very,
you're looking at
yeah.
it from this kind of angle, and it's like, oof, lots to work out there. So good on you for sort of going for it.
Mhm.
I like the hair. It looks cool.
It is wonderful. I
Mm.
I wonder if adding a few things like a few bubbles or just something else to work around this background just to break up the monotony of that sort of blue circle would help. You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Just food for thought.
What you could do probably is you've got this sort of this blue shape that's just like black into whatever. What you could do is if you go onto the color wheel, you've got this sort of blue aqua sort of like shape. Tilt it over to be like a little bit more towards bluey purple sort of thing. Turn the turn the hardness down so you've got like this softer kind of like a brush. Maybe do that sort of thing. And then you can mess about a bit and sort of add some like other hints of different sorts of blues and colors that are sort of close by to your original color here, but just different,
Shark coming up from
you know.
behind.
Yeah, stuff that basically it looks just like there's detail in the background, but it's kind of not very not very defined.
Mm,
And
yeah.
something that can be really interesting as well and really useful is, let me zoom in, let me do that, let me do this. So, okay, let me mess about. So, say that I want to create like some like weird bubbles. I've got like a shape here that's fairly dark. Let me do something, yeah, something roughly like that. What can be really cool is to add it and then cut out a bit and then come with a bit of a smaller brush and then, you know, add some like whatevers and all that sort of stuff. Messing about with like, you know, adding shapes and then cutting into them or like, you know, any of that kind of stuff can like sometimes be really, really fun ways to sort of build up bubbles that look really interesting. So I'm just, you know, coming over with a bit of a low opacity brush over these existing bubbles that I've done and sort of adding like little hints of other colors around them and all that. So you can have a lot of like fun with different bubbles and messing about with it.
All right. Let me just insert our next picture. We'll do that one.
Woo.
Yeah.
I super love these wings, though. I just wanted to say I didn't get a chance to. These wings are so nice.
That's
I
super
love
good.
the texture.
That's well done. These hooves are good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
It's
M's
huge.
picture is huge.
Yeah. I haven't resized it, but there's so much space. Nah.
Eh. Yep.
All right, so this one's by Embroidered Equations. You might know them from such places as posting in our voice chat saying, "You should critique my art."
Yep.
There we go. They said the light source is from somewhere around the faces. They wanted different than the standard top right hand light source. I think is what they said. Top left hand, top right hand, something like that. Standard light from the top left, yeah.
Yeah.
So light, sure. Let's just assume that these horses are the light of each other's worlds, and thus they light each other up.
Oh.
Make it adorable, and let's go from there.
Done. I've drawn. They actually have like a string of light of LEDs, and I've just drawn that in. So
Great.
that's perfect.
These are adorable. That is a very detailed cutie mark on the one with the.
Damn it, I was muted. Forgot to unmute my mic.
No.
I was saying, did you just nail the entire production basis of MLP LD, make it adorable, and go from there?
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we're going by the theory that the faces are the light, I think a lot of this light over here, a lot of the light on the body could probably be cut out. I nitpicky, sure. But just because a lot of it just feels kind of like it doesn't match up with where the faces are. Like some of this around here. Let me get a different color. Green's probably good, right? Yay, green.
Yay.
Like if the light's directly coming down, not much is gonna reach over here. And also, is it like a strong light or a soft light? Because this is showing as if it's like a beaming strong light, especially like a flashlight directly on them, with how some of these hard shadows are going. And if you want to go for like a more soft glow, like the faces are the light and they're like blushing so hard, they're glowing, you know, giving like soft. You could just hit up just like some important areas to get some light in, a little in the hair. All this hair is gonna get nice and shiny. But yeah, it's not gonna
So,
reach too far.
yeah. So, here's a way to think about light. Light exists to show off the forms, to basically explain things more easily for our eyes. That's basically the only role that light and shadows like play in terms of your picture. The problem that we're having is that because we can't see where the light is coming from, because there's some inconsistencies about, it's kind of making the form a little bit more difficult to understand. So, having the kind of simple, just a light source from up here and all this is lit. It's boring, yeah. But the solution to that might be sort of, having a few defined light sources. So, you can have something from sort of down here that's like in a bit of a yellow. You could have like a light source that is like, more blue coming from this direction. You can change how wide they are or how much of like a spotlight they are. You can sort
Mm-hmm.
of change how
How soft or hard they're coming on.
how crazily intense or colored they are versus how whatever they are, or how the light temperature. So having them like just look more white or whatever and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of ways to like mess around with light to make it more interesting. But the main thing that will aid in sort of readability and all that kind of stuff is keeping consistent light sources. So what would be good is if you can sort of mess about with like the skill and try to like hone the skill of basically. So let me erase this. So this yellow ball sort of represents my light source. What would be good is for you to be able to place this yellow ball, this light source, anywhere in the scene, and then be able to sort of show off the lit areas. So let me trace that down. That's sitting, say, here. So like in front of the characters, and just like, trace over the areas that would be lit from a light source at that sort of height, that far into the scene depth wise. Here's like areas that might be lit, and the areas that might be shadowed would probably be like all of this kind of like back here and all that sort of stuff, because all this is like kind of like above the light source a little bit. And being able to do this sort of like working out the lit areas and the shaded areas for each position in the scene, that will be really good, because then you can say, okay, here's like a light source of this yellow light, and then you can sort of take the basic color, the base color, and then do the hue shifting thing of like tilting it more towards yellow or doing all that sort of weird stuff. But like you can do this and add a few different lights around your scene, keep them consistent, and then just mess about with the lights and shadows in that sort of way. That might be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and make sure when you do this sort of stuff to also do the same sort of thing with the other character, so that you end up with something that is like consistent across most of it. So like for this sort of light source here, you might get a little bit on there, but most of this probably wouldn't sort of show up, would be like obscured by this character sitting here. Yeah, I'll just say that all of that is probably not going to be shown off too much. Probably imagine most of that would be hidden, and that's coming with this light. Something like that. Definitely that area. This area. You could have a little bit of a bleed. There's a light over here. Let's just be dark. And it feels and looks tedious, but doing this will create a consistent lighting that will help explain the forms in your picture
Mm-hmm.
more effectively.
And you know what? Thinking back to one of your early critiques, Pixie, the you could do this here where you zoom out pretty far, but you take a big brush and you just kind of take those big soft brushes and block out the shading in that way too. So that way you don't get too caught up in the details at first. You can always go in and get those details, of course, but just so you think in more larger terms of where the light will hit, and not get too focused in like all the crevices and crannies.
Yeah, this is like stuff that I've done when I'm doing like life drawing stuff as well, and that's really useful because especially like when you're drawing like real people and real animals and all that sort of stuff, you can literally like see which areas are lit, which areas aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, some stuff like that.
I forget
You can
where
do
I
it.
heard it from, but like something really key to just kind of the readability of a piece is if you can zoom out and tell what it is, even from zoomed out. And if the light seems confusing from zoomed out, then there's things that need to be worked on and areas that need to be focused on, like maybe more shadow somewhere to define something, or it's all about defining for your eyes the form, like Pixie's saying. It's like it's key importance. So if you can't, like, if you're having trouble focusing it on a base generic level, then even when you get all the details in, it's going to be that much more confusing.
Yeah. Light exists to help define the form and show it off. That's it. That's all. That's all it is. Yeah.
And yeah, Vex brings up a good point. Sometimes you also just got to step away from the art and then come back to it, get fresh eyes. Could be overthinking. Always possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Or you can post something and then 2 hours later notice things. That's fine too. That's fine too.
Yep. That sounds more accurate to my experience.
I've posted drawings of my OC who has wings with no wings, and I don't realize till days
Yep.
later. It's fine. It happens.
It's fine. It's all good. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions they'd like to ask? Any other art they'd like to submit? Any other philosophies they'd like to get from Pixie?
What?
Yep.
Okay.
Pixie, how do you live a happy life?
I don't. But here I'm happy. It's good. It's fine. Brownies.
Oh, it's true. Here's a good place. Good people.
Yeah.
Good people make good places. Surprise.
Exactly. I have a bunch of cool friends here that do cool art stuff and that I can do cool art stuff with and all that.
Yes. It's my favorite place.
Also, work is killing me, but otherwise I'm all good.
Oh no.
We'll kill work for you. Don't worry.
It's fine. It's just busy. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my Jesus Christ.
Well, they did keep you up till 3 a.m. last night, so.
Yeah, but that's all good though. Good art, good critiques, good drawings. Yeah. Goodness.
All right then. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.